I devoted my entire life to the Lin family, yet received no recognition. Later, I was confined to the ancestral hall for 5 years before dying from poisoning. Only after my death did I learn my husband had been having an affair with my widowed sister-in-law, and she was secretly carrying his child. My husband secretly fed me infertility potions, then used my barrenness as an excuse to force me to adopt his bastard child with his widow sister-in-law. Unaware of the truth, I raised the child, served my husband, and honored my mother-in-law, yet never earned their favor, ending in a tragic death within the ancestral hall. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment my husband pressured me to adopt the bastard child. The young Lin Jiaxian stood before me, frowning. Liu Shuang, you've been barren for 3 years. I've never taken a concubine for your sake. Now I merely ask you to adopt a child. Can you truly refuse? I bit my lip. Your Highness, I am still young. There may yet be opportunities in the future. Lin Jiaxian's expression darkened. Liu Shuang, if you refuse to adopt an orphan, I'll simply take 10 or 8 concubines to bear me heirs. When they produce a brood of illegitimate sons while you remain childless, will that please you? His tone was earnest, laced with threats and inducements. Every word was supposedly for my own good. I had heard those words many years ago. They cut too deeply. I remembered them all too clearly. In a daze, I realized I had been reborn. Liu Shuang, what do you say? Lin Jiaxian's words dragged me back to reality. In my previous life, after endless persuasion from Lin Jiaxian, my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law, I finally relented. Fine. Let's adopt the child. With that one sentence, that bastard child, born in the shadows, entered the Lin household. Registered under my name, he became the legitimate heir of the Lin family. With my family's backing, he rose swiftly through the ranks, entered the imperial court, and smoothly inherited the marquisate. Yet that little beast turned around and ruined my reputation. Together with that adulterous couple, he framed me, locked me in the ancestral hall, and poisoned me to death. Just as I was about to agree to the adoption, I suddenly sobered up. The words on my lips changed. Your Highness, this is a matter of great importance. There's no need to rush. Might you stay for supper tonight? Lin Jiaxian seemed taken aback by my stubbornness. His anger palpable. No. I have official duties to attend to. I curved my lips. If your Highness won't even stay for supper, then let's forget about adopting the child. Lin Jiaxian frowned briefly, then gritted his teeth. Fine. I'll stay for dinner. He wore an expression as if bestowing a tremendous favor. I sneered inwardly. Today was the 14th day of the 3rd month, the birthday of my kind, gentle, and rule-abiding widowed sister-in-law, Wen Fei. Earlier that day, Wen Fei had urged Lin Jiaxian to confront me, demanding I adopt the child. Tonight, she planned to celebrate her birthday by dining with Lin Jiaxian. Now, the adoption had fallen through, and Lin Jiaxian was stuck here. I wondered what expression that woman would wear. Since the young master was staying, I personally prepared 2 tables of dishes. I feigned cheerfulness as I rose for the kitchen, loudly announcing Lin Jiaxian's decision to remain. Wen Fei must have made her move. Upon reaching the small kitchen, I immediately spotted my personal maid, Hong Ling, simmering bird's nest soup. Seeing me, Hong Ling hurriedly curtsied. Madam. I smiled and said, the young master is staying for dinner today. Prepare another bowl of bird's nest soup. Yes, madam. Hong Ling left to prepare the soup. I lifted the lid off the small stove, my gaze cold. After marrying into the Lin family, Lin Jiaxian had someone stew a bowl of bird's nest for me every day. I thought he liked me. Little did I know he had bribed Hong Ling to slip a cold-natured herb into the bird's nest. Long-term consumption could render a woman infertile. My mother was frail and often ill. Having studied medicine with a physician, I possessed some knowledge of pharmacology. Thus, they dared not use potent toxins. Fearing my detection, the drug was colorless and odorless. Its potency mild enough to avoid physical discomfort. So I remained unaware. 3 years passed this way, and I still bore no child. How utterly vicious. I memorized the design of the bird's nest bowl. Summoning the senior maid Jinju, I announced, "The young master is dining in tonight. I must personally select the ingredients and prepare the meal." With that, I feigned joy and led Jinju out of the mansion. In my past life, Jinju was the most loyal maid, alas. She was murdered. Once outside the estate, I had Jinju take money to the herbalist and buy a packet of white yam powder. Jinju didn't understand why, but she obeyed my orders and went. I sat on the second floor of a tea house, sipping tea while enjoying the rare sight of the bustling marketplace. After my death, my soul drifted and learned that the cold poison Lin Jiaxin had given me would become far more potent if mixed with white yam. Without timely antidote, it could cause death in severe cases or infertility in milder ones. Husband, wait for me. After obtaining the Blatilla powder, I bought a few random items before returning to the Marquis's residence. I instructed the kitchen staff to prepare the meal. I then sent Hongling away and poured the Blatilla powder into the bird's nest soup laced with poison. Once the dishes were ready, I had them served at the table. True to his word, Lin Jiaxin waited at Kongqing courtyard for me to adopt the child. Never leaving. Your Highness, dinner is served, I announced. Night fell. Lin Jiaxin sat across from me, his face anxious, glancing repeatedly out the window. Today was Wenfei's birthday. He had promised to dine with her, yet I had detained him, hence his agitation. Hongling entered carrying 2 bowls of bird's nest soup, placing one before me and one before Lin Jiaxin. I knew instantly that mine was the poisoned bowl. Hongling, that treacherous, worthless servant. I'll make sure she pays for this. Once all the dishes were served, I dismissed the maids, leaving only Lin Jiaxin and me. I remarked, earlier at the courtyard gate, I thought I saw a figure in blue standing outside. Perhaps I imagined it. That evening, after I had loudly proclaimed Lin Jiaxin would remain, Wenfei, unwilling to concede on her birthday, made an appearance at the gate of my Kongqing courtyard. Wenfei lingered for a while before leaving, stationing her senior maid to guard the courtyard entrance. Lin Jiaxin immediately stood up, "I'll go check." When he first met Wenfei, she had been wearing blue. As soon as he left, I replaced the bird's nest soup. Moments later, Lin Jiaxin hurried back, even more restless than before. "Your Highness, please drink the bird's nest soup," I urged softly. Lin Jiaxin drank it without suspicion, then ate a few more bites of food. As if completing a task, he said, "Liu Shuang, I've finished my meal. I should be going now. Your Highness, take your time." I chuckled softly, continuing to eat slowly. I instructed Jinju to follow Lin Jiaxin from a distance to see if he went to Wenfei's quarters. Soon, Jinju returned with her report, "Madam, just as you predicted, His Highness went to Hefeng courtyard." I nodded. The show is about to begin. The Yongding Marquis' household had 2 legitimate sons, Lin Jiaxin and his elder brother. Before her marriage, Wenfei had skillfully kept both brothers dangling. Once Lin Jiaxin's elder brother was named heir apparent, she tearfully severed ties with Lin Jiaxin and married into the Lin family as his elder sister-in-law. Yet barely 3 months after her marriage, Lin Jiaxin's elder brother encountered bandits while on official business and was killed. His body left mutilated. After his brother's death, the position of heir apparent naturally passed to Lin Jiaxin. Wenfei could only mourn her husband, clutching his spirit tablet. But how could she resign herself to such a fate? She set her sights once more on her younger brother-in-law, Lin Jiaxian. Lin Jiaxian had long harbored deep feelings for Wenfei. At the slightest hint of interest from her, he eagerly embraced her, and they became intimate. Little did they know she soon became pregnant. When concealment became impossible, they knelt before their mother-in-law, tearfully confessing the truth. Though furious, the mother-in-law could do nothing. After all, the child in Wenfei's womb was still of the Lin family. Under the guise of spiritual retreat and prayer, she took Wenfei to Nanshan Temple to nurture the pregnancy and give birth. The child's tainted origins meant that if exposed, Wenfei would be disgraced beyond redemption, and Lin Jiaxian's future prospects would likely be ruined. Therefore, the child could not be brought back to the Marquis's residence. After Wenfei gave birth, the couple entrusted the child to others for adoption, planning to find an opportunity to bring it back to the Marquis's residence. That opportunity was me. After returning to the capital, the mother-in-law began searching everywhere for a suitable woman for Lin Jiaxian. They needed a woman and in-laws who were easy to control, yet also worthy of the Marquis's residence. After much deliberation, they settled on me, Su Liushuang. I was beautiful, renowned for my talents, and came from an unblemished family, my father merely a minor official. My ancestors included great Confucian scholars, and my current circle comprised upright literati. If I married into the Marquis, their children could study under these scholars. No one was more suitable to be the main wife. My parents saw this match as a great honor and gladly agreed, and so I entered this marriage blindly. Little did I know I was leaping into a pit of fire. The Lin family had long planned to drug me, rendering me unable to conceive. After some time, they would use my barrenness as an excuse to bring back their illegitimate son and raise him under my name. Thus, their family of 3 could be reunited. After dinner, I waited quietly. In the dead of night, a sudden commotion erupted in the courtyard. I rushed out of Kongqing courtyard, demanding, "What's happening?" The commotion originated from Wenfei's quarters. My attendant in the outer courtyard reported, "Madam, it seems the First Lady has fallen ill." They summoned the physician in the dead of night. I smirked inwardly. Lin Jiaxian's poison must have taken effect, his condition deteriorating rapidly. The servants, alarmed, had no choice but to call the doctor. He must be in Wenfei's courtyard, I said with feigned concern. Then we must hurry to see sister-in-law. She has endured years of widowhood, practicing self-restraint and propriety. Now that she is ill, we must not neglect her. With that, I led a large group of maids and maidservants in a grand procession toward Wenfei's Hufeng courtyard. I intended to lead the charge myself, bursting in to catch them red-handed. Wenfei's courtyard was ablaze with light. The moment I stepped inside, maids and matrons with panicked expressions blocked my path. "Second Lady, I heard my sister-in-law fell ill. How is she?" I inquired with feigned concern. The First Lady merely caught a chill. "Please return, Second Lady." I sighed, having come this far. I must at least see for myself. With that, I ordered the matrons beside me to clear a path and barged straight into Wenfei's chamber. Inside, my frail and pitiable widowed sister-in-law Wenfei lay pale-faced upon the bed. "Second sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, I heard you were gravely ill. Liu Shuang came especially to offer comfort." I spoke while surveying the surroundings. Strange, no sign of Lin Jiaxian. I knew he'd been poisoned and had come to Wenfei's courtyard. He must be hiding in the room. If that's the case, I won't leave. I smiled faintly, sitting beside Wenfei's bed. "Sister-in-law, all these years you've worked tirelessly for the Marquis's household. Tonight, Liu Shuang will keep you company." Wenfei's face stiffened. "Sister-in-law, please don't be so formal. I'm merely suffering from a slight chill." "It's nothing. You should return." I shook my head. We sisters-in-law share a deep bond. It's only right I stay. Have you summoned the court physician? Yes. He's already prescribed medicine. I pulled Wenfei into conversation. She grew anxious, breaking out in a sweat, repeatedly urging me to leave. But I stubbornly refused to budge. I won't leave until Lin Jiaxian comes out, unless he wants to be caught red-handed. If he doesn't come out, he won't get the antidote in time. He'll be ruined. Soon. The household physician hurried into the room carrying a bowl of medicine. Your Highness. Take your medicine. Seeing me, his expression turned alarmed. The princess consort. Your Highness? I wondered. Puzzled. Is the crown prince here too? He's not here. The physician hastily corrected. I mistakenly addressed him just now. I chuckled inwardly, eyeing the bowl in his hands. Snatching it away, I held it to Wenfei's lips. Sister-in-law, drink this. Wenfei's composure was slipping. Sister, she managed weakly. The medicine is too hot. I'll drink it later. You should go back first. She dared not touch the potion, because this medicine was Lin Jiaxian's antidote. If she drank it, Lin Jiaxian wouldn't be able to take his antidote in time. Sister-in-law, let me blow on it for you. I lifted the bowl, stirring it spoonful by spoonful. After a moment, I gently offered it to Wenfei. Sister-in-law, it's cooled now. Drink up. Wenfei's face flushed crimson as she forced down a spoonful. Being clever. She immediately began retching. This medicine. It's too awful. I won't drink it. You won't drink it. Huh? I sneered inwardly. Sister-in-law, bitter medicine cures illness. You must drink it to cure your cold. Panicked, Wenfei exclaimed, this medicine doesn't seem to cure colds. What? I sprang to my feet, smashed the bowl to the floor with a crash, and pointed at the court physician's nose, shouting, How dare you? Wenfei shrieked. Why did you smash the medicine? Everyone froze in shock. I held Wenfei down, my righteous indignation boiling over. Sister-in-law, don't be afraid. This court physician tried to poison you. Thankfully, you were wise enough to see through his scheme. Someone. Maids and servants rushed into the room, pointing at the physician. I commanded, lock this quack in the woodshed to await punishment. Wu Nanny, your servant is here. Take my token and go immediately to Huichen Hall to fetch physicians. Have them examine my sister-in-law. Bring several, we cannot let her be harmed by incompetent doctors again. Yes. Mistress. Under my decisive commands, everyone sprang into action. The court physician knelt trembling, wailing. I'm innocent. Lady Eyre. I didn't poison the lady of the manor. You didn't? My sister-in-law vomited immediately after taking your medicine and declared it wasn't for treating wind cold. And you dare lie to my face? Bring him here. Drag him out and give him 20 lashes. Without further ado, I ordered 2 maids to drag the physician away for beating. Listening to the agonized screams echoing through the courtyard, I slowly smiled. The physician was a confidant of the Marquis's household, obeying only the matriarch and Lin Jiaxian. In my previous life, the infertility potion I was poisoned with came from this physician's prescription. He secretly supplied the poison to Hongling monthly, who then laced it into the bird's nest soup. Later, when Lin Jiaxian and others sought to kill me, it was this physician who disguised poison as medicine during visits, ultimately causing my gruesome death. Heartless, ruthless scum. Now that he's in my hands, I won't spare him. Sister-in-law, I didn't mean it that way. Please release the physician and let him brew another potion. Wenfei was so flustered she nearly shed tears, looking utterly pitiable. That tactic works wonders on men, but it won't sway me. I feigned confusion. Sister-in-law, You just admitted the physician's concoction wasn't for wind cold. You vomited after drinking it, clearly something's amiss. Why insist he brew more? Wen Fei stammered, her gaze darting involuntarily toward the wardrobe beside the bed. Oh. So that dead bastard Lin Jiaxian was hiding in the wardrobe. The physician's screams gradually faded as he was dragged into the woodshed and locked inside. I took Wen Fei's hand, sister-in-law. Don't worry. The doctor will be here soon. Wen Fei sighed helplessly. Just in case. I had Jinju wrap up the residue of the medicine the physician had prescribed, making sure no one touched it. At that moment, hurried footsteps echoed again in the courtyard. Before long, mother-in-law rushed into the room. Wen Fei immediately said, "Grandmother." Her eyes flashed with both shock and joy. Mother-in-law's face was stern. What's all this commotion in the middle of the night? I stepped forward and said, "Grandmother, my sister-in-law is ill, and the court physician actually poisoned her." Is that so? My mother-in-law was shocked. I nodded. Wen Fei spoke softly. "Grandmother, I need to speak with you privately." My mother-in-law immediately turned to me. "Liu Shuang, step outside. Wen Fei and I need to talk." They were trying to send me away. Fine. Let them have their way. I rose and exited, instructing several sturdy maids to guard the courtyard and patrol the perimeter. It was obvious as day they were shooing me away to let Lin Jiaxian escape. Humph. I whispered a few words into Jinju's ear. Jinju shouted across the courtyard, "A stranger's shadow just flashed through here. It must be a thief. If anyone sees an intruder, beat them to death with sticks." Moments later, Jinju approached and whispered, "Madam, someone just opened the back window." Seeing us guarding it, they closed it again. I nodded with satisfaction. With guards posted, Lin Jiaxian couldn't escape. He'd have to play the turtle hiding in its shell. Just then, the door swung open. My mother-in-law stormed out, furious, and scolded me, "Liu Shuang, what are you doing? Are you flexing your authority in my widowed sister-in-law's courtyard? What will people think if word gets out? Get your people out of here immediately." I shook my head. "Mother, tonight's events are extraordinary. My sister-in-law suddenly fell gravely ill, and the court physician poisoned her. We cannot be careless." My mother-in-law fumed. "Who poisoned her? Release the court physician at once." My sister-in-law said it herself. Just then, Wen Fei was being supported by a maid as she approached. The mother-in-law slapped her across the face. "You said it?" 5 finger marks instantly appeared on Wen Fei's pale, delicate face, tears welling up. She said, "Mother-in-law, there's been a misunderstanding. Since my sister-in-law insisted I treat her, I couldn't refuse her kindness. I'll go to Hua Chentang." Mother-in-law snapped to attention. Right. Hurry to Huichun Hall. Go now." Then she turned to me, "Liu Shuang, you wanted to serve your sister-in-law, didn't you? You accompany her." I narrowed my eyes. No wonder I died so miserably in my past life. First, they deceived each other, forming an alliance against me alone. Second, Wen Fei was no pushover. She'd hidden Lin Jiaxian the moment I arrived, feigned illness to deceive me, and devised an escape plan when I pressed her, truly formidable. Having stayed under the pretense of attending to my sister-in-law, I'd naturally follow Wen Fei now that she was leaving. My departure would signal the retreat. Lin Jiaxian, left behind in the room, could then exit safely. Jinju said, "Madam, the physician from Huichun Hall is arriving shortly. If you leave now and miss him halfway, won't it be a wasted trip?" I smiled and replied, "Sister-in-law, seeing how frail you look, why not stay? I've called for a carriage, they should arrive soon." Seeing my refusal to budge, Wen Fei and the mother-in-law both flushed crimson. The mother-in-law scolded me again. I asked in confusion. Grandmother, what exactly has Liaxiang done wrong? Every action taken tonight was justified and beyond reproach. Tears welled in my eyes. If serving you, my sister-in-law, and apprehending those who plotted against our master are wrong, then this daughter-in-law knows not what is right. You, the mother-in-law couldn't find words, pointing at me in frustration. When Fei interceded, Madam, you are the head of this household. Who dares disobey your commands? The mother-in-law snapped to attention. Su Liaxiang, withdraw your people immediately. Me, why? Why? I am the head of this household. Must I explain myself to a mere daughter-in-law? She raised her head angrily. Do you dare defy your mother-in-law? When reason fails, resort to force. Admittedly, this tactic worked like a charm. I smiled softly. The matriarch is right. I'll withdraw my people immediately. However, since the court physician poisoned the master, someone must have instigated it. For my sister-in-law's safety, I'll have someone report this to the authorities. Once the officers arrive, Liu Shuang will naturally withdraw everyone. Mother-in-law and Wen Fei stared wide-eyed. Mother-in-law nearly fainted from rage. If the officers arrived, Lin Jiaxian would be trapped. And if they witnessed him hiding in his widowed sister-in-law's room at midnight, the scandal would spread throughout the capital by morning. Just as the standoff intensified, Auntie Wu burst in. The doctor is here. The doctor is here. Both night duty physicians from Huichen Hall were summoned to the marquee. Sister-in-law, please let the doctors examine you. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Wen Fei had no choice but to retreat into the room and allow the physicians to treat her. Wen Fei and her mother-in-law exchanged anxious glances. I reassured her, sister-in-law, don't be afraid. With two highly respected physicians here, everything will be fine. Wen Fei almost gritted her teeth as she said, Thank you, sister-in-law. I replied, You're welcome. It's what I should do. The two doctors took Wen Fei's pulse. She occasionally coughed a few times. Her face pale. Madam's pulse is steady and even. There's nothing seriously wrong, the doctor said doubtfully. But she can't stop coughing. And her face is so pale. Wen Fei replied, Perhaps I caught a chill from the cold wind. After a brief consultation, the physicians declared, Then it is a mild wind-cold affliction. A few doses of medicine should suffice. My mother-in-law nearly leapt to her feet, demanding urgently, Then prescribe the medicine immediately and leave at once. Both physicians held high standing in the capital. Even nobles and officials had to heed their words. They were displeased that the mother-in-law displayed such an attitude toward them, especially since they had agreed to make a midnight house call. The Marquis's household summoned us both in such haste, making us believe it was some grave illness. Yet it turns out to be merely a wind cold. Now they're rushing us out. Is this some kind of joke? Her face turned ashen. I chuckled inwardly and stepped forward. Gentlemen, you may not know this, but our household physician also diagnosed a cold. Yet when he brought the medicine, my sister-in-law vomited after drinking it and insisted it wasn't for treating a cold. Fearing something was amiss, we summoned you both. Is that so? I had Jinju bring the medicine residue and handed it to the physicians. Is this what you call medicine for a cold? The physicians glanced at it and paled instantly. Absolutely not. This contains centipede and strychnine seeds, deadly poisons. I sprang to my feet in fury. Someone is indeed trying to poison my sister-in-law. We must investigate. Wu Mama, your servant is here. Go report this to the authorities immediately. Yes. No. Wen Fei and mother-in-law hurried to stop me. I pressed on. Auntie Wu. Auntie Wu had already run far away. Madam, sister-in-law, this poisoning cannot be ignored. We must report it to the authorities. I watched their flushed faces and chuckled inwardly. Those poisonous insects and the medicinal residue were meant to counteract toxins for Lin Jiaxian. But when Fei only had a cold, those substances became poisonous to her. With the two Hua Chuntang doctors present, Wen Fei and mother-in-law were stuck between a rock and a hard place, nearly driven mad with anxiety. I glanced at the wardrobe. How long had it been? Lin Jiaxian still hadn't emerged. He really could endure. Heh. We'll see how long his endurance lasts. Before long, a sudden noise came from inside the wardrobe. What was that sound? I asked. No sound. Mother-in-law and Wen Fei answered in unison. Then, a wave of agonized moans echoed from within the wardrobe. Someone's in the wardrobe. The doctor jumped to his feet in fright. I ordered Jinju directly, open it immediately. Before the mother-in-law could intervene, Jinju flung the wardrobe doors open. A figure lay sprawled on the floor, foaming at the mouth and convulsing violently. The young master! Jinju screamed. The entire room fell silent in shock. Lin Jiaxian emerged from the wardrobe, collapsing onto the floor. His eyes rolled back. Foam gathered at his mouth, and he lay unconscious. I feigned surprise. What? What happened? Why was His Highness hiding in my sister-in-law's wardrobe? Wen Fei's face instantly drained of color. This time, the pallor was genuine, utterly bloodless. I pondered for a moment, my gaze growing increasingly stunned. Sister-in-law? Rumors circulated before your wedding about your close relationship with the crown prince. I never believed them. Today, I finally understand it was true all along. A bucket of filthy water was dumped over Wen Fei's head. Not filthy water, the truth. Spots danced before Wen Fei's eyes as her body swayed unsteadily. In a weak, trembling voice, she stammered, "No, it's not what you think." Then what was it? I snapped, seething with rage. Ever since I married into the Marquis's household, the young master rarely visited my Kongqing courtyard. Today, I went to great lengths to keep him for dinner, planning for him to stay the night. Yet you first circled the entrance, then stationed a maid to guard the door. The young master chatted with your maid, then grew restless and left without finishing his meal. I felt terrible, sitting awake on my bed unable to sleep. When I heard you were ill, thinking I might as well come keep you company since I couldn't sleep anyway. But then I found the young master with you. You two have been having an affair all along. No, that's not it. Wen Fei rushed to my side, grabbing my hand. Liu Shuang, believe me, it's not what you think. I flung her hand away. Then explain this. How do you account for a strange man being in your room in the dead of night? Wen Fei stammered, her face flushing deeper under the suggestive stares of the others. No matter how she tried to wriggle out of it, she couldn't explain why Lin Jiaxian was hiding in the wardrobe at midnight. I sneered coldly, not admitting it. Then let me ask you this. On your birthday, the crown prince abandoned me and rushed to your Lotus Breeze courtyard. What was that about? The entire mansion knew he was supposed to stay with me tonight. So why did he go to your courtyard instead? Wen Fei's lips trembled. Those around us wore looks of contempt. The situation was now crystal clear. So you two have been together all along. This is adultery. Wen Fei, clever girl that she was, gritted her teeth and said, I didn't know about this. The urgent matter now is to tend to the crown prince. We can discuss the rest later. The mother-in-law clutched her chest and sighed. Yes. Let's tend to my son first. Maids and servants carried Lin Jiaxian to the bed as the doctor from Huichen Hall knelt beside him, administering acupuncture. After a long moment, the two men declared gravely, the young master has been poisoned. I immediately pointed at Wen Fei. So that's it. You met secretly with the young master in the dead of night and poisoned him. How heartless. It wasn't me. Wen Fei gasped. The crime of attempting to murder the crown prince would not only cost her head but also bring ruin upon her maternal family. I have no idea how he was poisoned. The officials have arrived. Matron Wu, ever swift on her feet, led several officers from the Ministry of Justice into the room. The official at the forefront was the Deputy Minister of Justice. Matron Wu has truly outdone herself, she's brought in a heavyweight. The crowd gasped. I declared, since my sister-in-law persists in her lies, let the magistrate interrogate the maids and servants in the courtyard. The truth will surely come to light. Your attempt to poison the crown prince is a heinous crime. Wen Fei's pupils dilated in terror. The deputy chief of the Supreme Court glanced at me and waved his hand. Since the lady of the manor refuses to speak, take the maids and servants down for interrogation one by one. If any are found lying, do not blame this official for showing no mercy. Wen Fei's body swayed precariously. The charges of plotting to murder the crown prince and of committing adultery with him were both grave. Now that the crown prince had been discovered hiding in the wardrobe, the adultery charge was inescapable. But she absolutely could not admit to poisoning him. At least adultery wouldn't implicate the men of her maternal family. Besides, the maids and servants knew the truth, interrogating them would reveal everything. At this point, Wen Fei had no choice but to tell the truth. The Deputy Minister of the Supreme Court of Justice said, Madam, speak. Gritting her teeth, Wen Fei replied, I did not poison His Highness. On his birthday today, he dined with me. After resting, he suddenly suffered unbearable abdominal pain and broke out in a cold sweat. I interrupted, Rest? Did you two rest together? I was about to nail them for adultery right in front of everyone. Wen Fei's lips trembled. Sister-in-law, the Dali Temple officials are here. Your maids and servants know the truth. Lying won't help. After hearing my words, Wen Fei closed her eyes, bit her lip, and wept. Yes. Everyone was stunned. The Crown Prince of Marquis Yongding had actually committed adultery with his widowed sister-in-law. The mother-in-law slumped into her chair, rubbing her temples incessantly and muttering, It's over. It's all over. I stared at Wen Fei with feigned contempt. Others pointed fingers at her as well. Wen Fei suddenly panicked. I was forced. The words nearly burst from her lips. I didn't want to. The young master coerced me. Wah. She was accustomed to playing the innocent victim. Just as she had framed me for pushing her into the water in her past life, shifting the blame onto me. Today, she instinctively tried to pin the blame on Lin Jiaxin. You slut! Her mother-in-law flew into a rage, leaping from her chair to slap her hard across the face. You slut! You seduced my son. If Wen Fei had been forced, then Lin Jiaxin should bear the blame. Her mother-in-law was understandably furious. Wen Fei sobbed. I truly was forced. She seemed to realize her mistake. But words spoken couldn't be unsaid. She could only insist Lin Jiaxin had coerced her. The once close mother-in-law and daughter-in-law instantly became bitter enemies. I chuckled inwardly. I'd thought their bonds were unbreakable. But when disaster strikes, they'd trample others to escape. As the mother-in-law and Wen Fei were about to come to blows, the Deputy Minister of Justice interjected, Enough. Focus on the case. I settled back into my seat, thoroughly satisfied. Wen Fei sniffled through her account, emphasizing she'd been forced to sleep with Lin Jiaxin and knew nothing about the poisoning. An official asked, What did the Crown Prince eat today? Wen Fei, seething with hatred toward me, immediately pointed and declared, The Crown Prince ate at her place first. She poisoned him. She tried to kill the Crown Prince. I frowned. Wen Fei, stop making baseless accusations. As the Crown Prince's wife, why would I harm my own husband? Because you're not favored. Wen Fei glared at me venomously, determined to pin the crime of poisoning Lin Jiaxin on me. I refused to argue with her. The Crown Prince did dine at Kongqing Courtyard, but he also ate at Hefeng Courtyard. Not only that, but the young master went out shopping today. He could have eaten elsewhere. How can you blame everything on me? Sister-in-law? Sister-in-law. You're the one who committed adultery. Why do you look like you want to eat my flesh and drink my blood? Wen-fei trembled with rage. At that moment, the old lady coldly declared, Wen-fei is nothing but a lowly woman. I've never seen such a shameless woman. She'll be divorced sooner or later. Wen-fei glared at her and sneered coldly, Madam. With so many people present, please consider the bigger picture, what words should be spoken and what should be kept silent. She was reminding her mother-in-law that if the child's secret were revealed, she herself would become the scorned harlot everyone despised, while Lin Jiaxian and the Marquis would suffer irreparable damage to their reputations. Her mother-in-law swallowed her anger, snorted coldly, and fell silent. Just then, the physician from Huichun Hall exclaimed, Something's amiss. Madam! Quickly! Bring me the medicinal residue from earlier. I'll have Jinju fetch it. The two physicians seized the residue, scrutinizing it intently. After sniffing it, they cried out excitedly, This is it. This must be the antidote. I deliberately asked, What's going on? Madam, the medicine the court physician brewed earlier is likely the antidote for the young master. If we were to prepare our own antidote, it would take considerable time the young master cannot afford to lose. Quickly summon the court physician to explain. If confirmed as the antidote, have it prepared immediately. The young master can hardly wait any longer. I ordered. Bring the physician who poisoned my sister-in-law here. Poisoned my sister-in-law? The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, upon hearing this, inquired for details. I explained, Your Honor, you may not know this, but besides the young master being poisoned, my sister-in-law nearly suffered the same fate. I recounted everything I had witnessed, leaving nothing out. When Fei's expression turned unnatural, the Chief Justice's eyes flashed with suspicion, clearly sensing something amiss. Soon after, the physician from the woodshed was dragged into the room, covered in wounds and writhing in agony. He collapsed and cried out, Madam, save me! His mother-in-law frantically averted her eyes. Who was the medicine you brewed tonight meant for? I asked, holding the medicinal residue. The physician looked around frantically. The Dali Temple official roared, Speak, or face the whipping. The physician trembled violently, his eyes darting about as if he couldn't make up his mind. I demanded, Did you poison my sister-in-law? How dare you attempt to kill your master? Your head will be chopped off. The physician was terrified. I'm innocent. Even if you gave me 10 lives, I wouldn't dare poison the lady of the manor. If not for the lady of the manor, then for whom? I pressed. Your sister-in-law has just confessed to adultery with the crown prince. They were caught in the act, reveling in their illicit pleasure. Why did you suddenly bring in this bowl of medicine? When Fei's face flushed crimson, the court physician's eyes widened. Realizing the affair had been exposed, he blurted out the truth. It was meant for the crown prince. The two physicians from Huachentang asked, May we ask if it was the antidote for the crown prince? The court physician nodded. Quick! Go seize it and brew a fresh batch. The physician ordered. The maid took her leave to comply. The deputy minister of the Supreme Court narrowed his eyes at the physician. So you knew what poison the crown prince had ingested? And you knew the antidote? The physician was drenched in sweat. I immediately declared. Then you poisoned the crown prince. Your entire clan shall be executed. The physician, terrified, hastily kowtowed. The poison wasn't administered by this humble servant. I have no idea how His Highness was poisoned. Dali Temple Superintendent, liar. Even the physicians of Huachentang couldn't identify the poison. How could you concoct an antidote so swiftly? You must have known all along what poison His Highness was given. This. The physician was drenched in sweat, frantically glancing at the old lady and Wen-fei. Why are you looking at me? The old lady snapped. Do you think I administered the poison? Of course not. The physician's sweat poured even more profusely. It wasn't me either. Wen Fei said. Could it be someone else? Think again. The physician wiped his brow and suddenly turned to me. I happened to recognize the poison administered to the Crown Prince Yin powder. That's why I could prepare the antidote so swiftly. This toxin acts with devastating speed. Once ingested, it manifests within an hour. The Crown Prince likely fell victim during dinner. Dolly Temple Deputy, investigate immediately. If it takes effect within an hour, it must have been administered around dinner time. Yin powder? The two physicians from Huichun Hall looked puzzled. Yin powder doesn't act that quickly. Could we have made a mistake? A large group rushed out, gathering all the food and cups Lin Jiaxin had used today. The food Lin Jiaxin had eaten was divided, one portion in my Kongqing courtyard, the other with Wen Fei. Ultimately, the two physicians discovered the poison in my food. Good heavens! It was the younger sister-in-law who poisoned the young master. Wen Fei gasped, covering her mouth. Mother-in-law added, Su Liushuang, how cruel your heart is. Wen Fei continued, Your Honor. Today sister-in-law suddenly insisted on cooking. All these dishes were prepared by her. Could it be that, unloved by the young master, she harbored resentment? Amidst the gawking crowd, I remained impassive. Sister-in-law, the magistrate hasn't even spoken yet. And you're already condemning me? If I had poisoned him, why would I specifically invite the Ministry of Justice to investigate? The Deputy Minister of Justice gave me a piercing look. I've already ordered a search of Kongqing courtyard to find the poison. Of course. Every courtyard in the Marquis's residence will be searched. By then, dawn was breaking. News of the Yongding Marquis' estate had already spread, drawing a large crowd outside to gawk. Soon, Hongling was dragged in. The officers had found the yin powder in her room. She knelt on the ground, trembling violently. I slapped her hard across the face. You vile servant. You dared poison the young master. Your mother and younger brother's indentured contracts are in my hands. Yet you dare betray me and frame me. They're both at my estate. If you dare lie, I'll tear them apart. Hongling flinched, panic flashing in her eyes. After reincarnating, I immediately had people seize Hongling's mother and brother. I feared she might turn the tables on me. Your Honor, my sister-in-law is threatening Hongling. Wen Fei immediately interjected. I sneered coldly, then I'll have Hongling's mother and brother brought to the Marquis's residence. That should eliminate any threat. Wouldn't it? Hongling was originally my dowry maid, holding her and her family's indentured contracts. And having served me for years, I trusted her completely. I entrusted her with preparing my meals, never suspecting she'd been bribed. Now, her family and indentures became my leverage. At the very least, Hongling would never side with the Marquis's household. With the evidence now clear, Hongling knew she couldn't save herself. To protect her family, she could only tell the truth. Sobbing, Mistress, it was all because of my greed. I took money from the old lady and poisoned you. That medicine was meant for you. But somehow, the young master ended up eating it. The matriarch and Wen Fei's faces paled. Everyone was stunned. So the poison wasn't meant for the young master, it was meant for me. The mastermind behind it all was the Marquis's residence's old lady. All eyes turned to the old lady. Her face darkened as she glared furiously at Hongling, as if blaming her for failing to hide the medicine properly, utterly useless. I raised an eyebrow. Hongling had actually hidden the poison carefully. I had someone retrieve it and place it under her bed. That's why the officers could find it so quickly. Dolly Temple Clerk, are you telling the truth? Hongling nodded, and I didn't just poison the young mistress for a day or two. Ever since she married into the Marquis's household, I've been administering the poison for 3 whole years. That medicine was given to me by the lady of the manor through the estate physician. The physician said it posed no harm, only rendering the young mistress barren. She consumed it without issue. So why has the young master become like this? With that, she burst into heart-wrenching sobs. Beside her, the estate physician trembled violently, his lips quivering. The imperial court official roared, "Speak! Why was the young master poisoned?" The physician from Huichen Hall had already examined the bird's nest carefully and stated, because it contained Blatilla striata. Blatilla striata? Yes. Your Honor. The yin-yang powder can induce infertility through coldness without causing symptoms, making it difficult to detect. We were puzzled earlier as to why it would be the yin-yang powder, since the young master's poisoning was too severe to resemble typical symptoms. Only after examining the food did we discover the Blatilla had been added. When yin-yang powder mixes with Blatilla, the toxins violently clash, causing the victim to collapse. Without immediate treatment, death follows. Even if saved, infertility remains. Blatilla. I feigned surprise. But I used Blatilla in the fish I prepared today. What? Everyone gasped in shock. I explained, spicy fresh fish is an ancestral recipe from one of our elderly maids. It requires many spices and medicinal herbs. Not only is it delicious, but it also nourishes the body. Adding Blatilla powder enhances the flavor and promotes longevity. So I included it. With so many hands in the kitchen and the powder being ground, could it have accidentally fallen into the bird's nest? Jinju interjected, even if it didn't get into the bird's nest, eating the fish after consuming the nest would still cause poisoning. This was an accident. I asked, then what about the young master? The physician shook his head, it's too late. The delay was too long. We can only save his life now. But he will never be able to have children. I sprang to my feet, pointing at my mother-in-law, before marrying into the Marquis's household. I never had any quarrel with you, mother-in-law. I never offended you, we hadn't even met. Why poison me? Why make me infertile? You called me a hen that lays no eggs, berating me for 3 years without a child. Now the truth is clear, you did this. How dare you scold me? I cried out in anguish. The old lady was speechless. Sympathetic glances flooded the room, even when Faye hastily distanced herself from her mother-in-law, feigning unfamiliarity. She added, "How could mother-in-law do such a thing? When the upper beam is crooked, the lower beam follows suit. No wonder the young master forced himself upon me." Then, tears welling in her own eyes, she turned to me, "Sister-in-law, we suffer the same fate. They poisoned you, and they forced me." My mother-in-law was seething with rage at Wenfei's words, but she gritted her teeth and endured it, watching Wenfei's hypocritical act. I felt utterly sickened. Trying to slip away alone? Forget it! I continued my tearful lament. Why? Why marry me only to prevent me from conceiving? Why force me to adopt some bastard child from who knows where? Adopt? The Deputy Minister of Justice seized the crucial point. I wiped away my tears. Yes. They took turns persuading me to adopt an orphan of unknown origin, making him my legitimate son. I simply cannot comprehend. If I truly couldn't conceive, that would be one thing. But they poisoned me from the start, rendering me infertile, just to manipulate me into adopting a child. And when I wanted to adopt the clan leader's child, they refused, insisting I take Lin Zhaoxian instead. I just don't understand. The Deputy Minister of the Supreme Court wore a thoughtful expression. Suddenly, something struck me, and I looked at Wenfei in shock. Wait! That child. He looks just like you. He even called you mother once. Wenfei's face paled instantly. You're lying. When did Xian ever call me mother? She was always cautious within the mansion. Her son, Lin Zhaoxian, never dared to call her mother there. What could she do if I made things up? 10 mouths couldn't explain it away. I understand now, I exclaimed, suddenly realizing I didn't understand before, but now it's all clear. After speaking, I adopted a heartbroken expression. Madam, what do you understand? The two Huachentang physicians asked in confusion. Jinju said, don't you two understand? It must be that the young master had an affair with his widowed sister-in-law long ago and fathered a child. Such a scandal the Marquis's household couldn't possibly cover up. So they hastily married our young mistress. Then they deliberately poisoned her to make her infertile, giving them a reason to legitimately register that bastard child as their legitimate heir. Otherwise, why poison the mistress to make her infertile? Why force her to adopt another child? Adopting another child might be one thing, but for the esteemed Marquis's household to refuse to adopt a child from within their own clan, insisting instead on adopting a bastard of unknown origin, doesn't that speak volumes? Jinju's little mouth chattered away, spilling out every detail like beans from a bamboo tube. I wiped away tears while silently praising her in my heart. Truly, she is the maid I value most. The old lady and Wenfei's faces turned ashen. Nonsense! How dare this lowly maid slander the Marquis's household with such vile accusations? Servants! Strike her face! The matriarch, enraged and humiliated, pointed at Jinju and screamed. Wenfei, tears streaming down her face, added, Sister-in-law, I never imagined you could be so cruel, smearing me with such filth. I sneered coldly. Eldest sister-in-law, don't try to wriggle out of this. Wenfei fixed her gaze on me. I continued, even if Jinju is lying. What was the prince doing in your room tonight? You admitted it yourself in front of everyone, that you slept with him tonight. Wenfei bit her lip and explained, I was forced. Forced? The prince was supposed to stay in my room tonight. You heard him. Yet you ran to the gate of my Kongqing courtyard to peek. Not only did you peek yourself, you even sent a maid to lurk around suspiciously. The crown prince saw your maid, which is why he left Kongqing courtyard and came to yours, leading to tonight's whole fiasco. Tell me, did the crown prince force you to come to Kongqing courtyard? Or did he force your maid to meet him at the gate? Wenfei stammered urgently, You're making baseless accusations. Baseless accusations? I pressed on. How many maids and servants saw you on your way here? Your maid loitered outside Kongqing courtyard for so long, people everywhere saw her. Why not have her come in to face the music? Wenfei bit her lip hard. The deputy minister of justice interjected. Madam, which maid was it? Bring her forward. Jinju volunteered. This servant remembers the maid's appearance. And so Jinju went to fetch the maid. Wenfei's slender frame swayed precariously. Her eyes met mine, filled with shock and terror. She tried to save herself. But now that I'd exposed her son, she couldn't escape. I continued my taunt, sister-in-law. If you hadn't schemed to take the crown prince away from me tonight, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Perhaps the poison would have worn off already. Everyone present felt a pang of sympathy, eyeing Wenfei with strange looks. Wenfei opened her mouth, unable to speak. Her mother-in-law, who had shared her hatred, grew increasingly grim as she listened. She rose abruptly and demanded, Doctor, how is my son? The physician replied, Madam, the young master's physical condition is stable. He awakens like any other man. However, regarding his ability to have children, it is unlikely he will ever be able to. The mother-in-law slumped back into her chair. Her eyes burned with fury as she glared at Wenfei. Her teeth clenched. You vile woman. You've ruined my son. Ever since learning of Wenfei's affair with Lin Jiaxin, the mother-in-law had despised her. Naturally, in her mind, Lin Jiaxin was blameless, all fault lay with Wenfei. Unfortunately, When Fei carried the Marquis's child and had Lin Jiaxin shielding her, leaving her no choice but to stand with Wen Fei. They ultimately formed an alliance to scheme against me. Now when Fei claims Lin Jiaxin forced himself on her, delayed his treatment, and caused him to become childless, how could she not be furious? Grandmother, I didn't mean to. The moment the young master was poisoned, I immediately summoned the court physician, fetched medicine, and prepared the decoction. If my sister-in-law hadn't suddenly stormed in with her people, the young master would have recovered long ago. When Fei began shifting blame and slandering me again, I retorted instantly, so you're implying it's all my fault? When Fei bit her lip, silent, grandmother stared into my eyes as if she could devour me. I smiled. That's unfair. If you truly wanted to save the young master, you shouldn't have feigned illness when I first brought people in. You should have told me the truth. Even if I harbored resentment. I know human life is paramount. I understand priorities and would have saved the young master first. It's clear you wanted to keep deceiving me. To make your son my heir and continue manipulating me, that's why the young master ended up like this. I have no son. When Fei shouted, her composure finally cracking, she shook her head frantically, kneeling before her mother-in-law. Grandmother, don't listen to her. Smack! The old lady's slap sent her crashing to the floor. When Fei struggled on, I have no son. The crown prince forced me. I didn't poison him. I know nothing. Just then, Jinju entered with Wen Fei's personal maid. The maid trembled as she came in, collapsing to her knees with a thud. The interrogation inside was overheard by those outside, who now understood the situation. The maid likely grasped the unfolding situation. Tell us, Jinju demanded. What were you doing at Kongqing courtyard today? Who sent you there? The maid opened her mouth, her gaze fixed on Wen Fei in terror. Wen Fei stared back at her, her eyes unblinking. Speak up! The magistrate of the Supreme Court slammed his hand on the table. Dare to utter a single false word, and I shall hold you personally accountable. The maid stammered in panic. It was the First Lady who sent me to Kongqing courtyard. To do what? To invite the Crown Prince. Why? The maid hesitated, knowing the truth would eventually come out. Gritting her teeth, she said, because today is the First Lady's birthday. The Crown Prince promised to have dinner with her at Hefeng courtyard. But then the Second Lady unexpectedly wanted to keep him there. The First Lady was very displeased, so she went personally to fetch the Crown Prince. She also ordered me to stay at the gate of Kongqing courtyard, ready to bring him over at any moment. I said, listen carefully. Sister-in-law, you went to invite the young master yourself, it was your choice. To claim he forced you seems rather inappropriate. Don't you think? The mother-in-law, upon hearing this, immediately joined me in condemning Wen Fei. You vile woman. You seduced my son and now shift all blame onto him. How utterly wicked. I shall demand the family disown you. Wen Fei, who had just regained her footing, collapsed back to the ground. My mother-in-law eagerly turned to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Your Honor, my son did not coerce anyone. He is innocent. The magistrate ignored her and continued questioning the maid. I ask you, did the Crown Prince coerce my sister-in-law? Under the matriarch's murderous glare and the crowd's piercing stares, the maid shrank back and stammered. No. They were mutually consenting. Jinju sneered coldly. How lovely, mutual consent. Might I ask how long this mutual consent has lasted? The maid frantically glanced around. Speak! She trembled and stammered, 4 years ago. Through the maid's confession, everyone learned that Lin Jiaxian and Wen Fei had begun their affair just 2 months after the previous crown prince's death. I sighed. 2 months? Such impatience? I wonder if my elder brother, if his spirit dwells in heaven, might turn into a vengeful ghost to claim their lives? Wen Fei flinched. The magistrate of the Supreme Court of Justice asked, "So, Wen Fei, is there a child?" The maid hesitated, afraid to speak. Suddenly, commotion arose at the doorway. Auntie Wu entered and announced, "Madam, the child has been brought." Two maidservants ushered in a boy of about 4 years old. All eyes turned to him. I said, "Officer, this is the child they insisted I adopt, Lin Zhaoxian." Wen Fei, who had thrown herself to the floor, scrambled to her feet. "What are you doing? Let go of Xianer." Lin Zhaoxian was already trembling with fear. His little face filled with terror as he looked around. "Look at this child. Doesn't he bear a striking resemblance to my sister-in-law?" Everyone scrutinized the child closely and nodded in agreement. Wen Fei rushed to Wu Ma's side, snatched the child away, and stroked his head reassuringly. "Don't be afraid." The child clung tightly to her. Nanny Wu smiled warmly. "Lin Zhaoxian, who is this woman beside you?" The child didn't answer, looking up at Wen Fei with panic. Wen Fei clenched her teeth tightly. Things had come to this. She knew full well that the truth couldn't be hidden forever. The deputy minister of the Supreme Court's gaze lingered briefly between the child and Wen Fei before he lowered his head to ask the maid, "I ask you, does Wen Fei have a child or not?" The kneeling maid glanced at Wen Fei, then at the child. Knowing the truth would come out sooner or later, she bit her lip and replied, "Yes." Those words sent shockwaves through the room. The widowed sister-in-law was carrying a child, and it was highly likely Lin Zhaoxian's. For a moment, every face wore a complex mix of emotions. The maid continued, "The young master and the first lady were together for half a year. The first lady became pregnant, and as her belly grew visibly larger, they had no choice but to seek the old lady's help. Though furious, the old lady decided to keep the child. She took the first lady to Nanshan Temple for seclusion, where she secretly gave birth. After returning, they plotted to marry a pliable mistress. They chose the second lady, poisoned her to render her barren, then forced her to adopt the child. This way, the child could legitimately become the young master's heir, smoothly inheriting the marquis without clan opposition." The maid poured out the entire story. Thus, the truth was laid bare. Lin Zhaoxian grew increasingly terrified, clutching Wen Fei's sleeve and pleading, "Mother, where is father? Where is he?" Wen Fei closed her eyes. Everything was now sealed. The mother-in-law sat in her chair, sighing, as if she had aged 10 years overnight. She had been furious with Wen Fei moments before, but had held back for the sake of the child. Now, however, she could no longer contain herself. She lunged forward and grabbed Wen Fei by the throat. "It's all your fault. You wretch! You ruined my son. Ruined the entire marquis's household." Everyone rushed to pull her away. The matriarch looked at me and said, "Liu Shuang, you heard everything. I had no choice but to act as I did. That woman seduced my son and even bore his child. I couldn't harm the marquis's bloodline, so I had to resort to this desperate measure. If I had a choice, as the dignified matriarch of the marquis, nearing my 50s and on the brink of the grave, why would I stoop to such filthy deeds?" Tears streamed down her face as she spoke. I remained unmoved. "Old lady, no more excuses. You sacrificed me for the sake of your marquis interests. In the end, you've harmed both others and yourself." The old lady covered her face and wept bitterly. Daybreak had already arrived. The sun rose over the horizon, banishing the darkness and chill. I exhaled a long breath. Just then, Lin Jiaxian on the bed moaned and came to. Seeing so many people crowded in the room, he asked in confusion, "What happened?" The gazes of those present were deeply complicated. I rushed forward and slapped Lin Jiaxian across the face. Smack! The slap rang out loud and clear. This was a slap that spanned 2 lifetimes and over a decade. Countless grievances and hatred surged up. My eyes reddened. and tears poured out. No pretense. I wept bitterly. Su Liushuang, you dare hit me? Lin Jiaxian flew into a rage, sitting up on the bed to retaliate. But he had just been poisoned and was currently very weak. I lunged forward, pinned his head down, and unleashed a barrage of punches and kicks. What are you all standing there for? Help me! Lin Jiaxian kept screaming, yet no one in the room intervened. When Fei and the old lady, knowing they were in the wrong, dared not approach, the others, filled with sympathy, watched silently. Only when I grew tired of beating him did I release him, turning to stride away. Lin Jiaxian's face was swollen and bruised, now resembling a pig's head. Your Highness, take heed. The Deputy Minister of Justice shot Lin Jiaxian a meaningful glance before turning away. The physician from Huichun Hall shook his head and sighed. What does that mean? Lin Jiaxian was both furious and aggrieved, utterly baffled. The physician explained, Your Highness, you will no longer be able to perform the marital act. Ah! A piercing scream echoed from within the room. By dawn, the events at the Yongding Marquis' residence had spread like wildfire through every street and alley, sending the capital into an uproar. Everyone knew Lin Jiaxian and Wen Fei had begun their affair just 2 months after my brother's death, even bearing an illegitimate child. They also knew how to conceal their secret and legitimize bringing the child back. They deliberately framed me and poisoned me to render me infertile. Their actions were utterly appalling, even reaching the emperor's ears. I returned to my parents' home. Upon learning the truth, they were overcome with grief, bitterly regretting their past decisions. That very night, my father wrote a memorial to the emperor, pleading for severe punishment and demanding my divorce from Lin Jiaxian. Simultaneously, the Yongding Marquis' enemies began exposing the household's sordid affairs. Allegations surfaced of embezzlement, bribery, usury, and more. The emperor, enraged, granted my divorce petition. Given the immense public outrage, to demonstrate justice, His Majesty not only permitted my separation from Lin Jiaxian but also ordered the Marquis to compensate me with vast sums of gold, silver, land, and properties. I took possession of the majority of the Marquis assets. The Emperor revoked the Yongding Marquis title. The old lady shouldered the blame for the poisoning alone. Her noble title was stripped. She received 20 strokes of the cane, and was ordered to publicly apologize to me. Advanced in years, she died shortly after returning home following the punishment. Lin Jiaxian was dismissed from office, and the Marquis' estate was confiscated, though not explicitly barred from holding office. His reputation was ruined, ending any prospect of a political career. A man who took advantage of his brother's death to consort with his widowed sister-in-law, who conspired with his own mother to poison his wife, a vile individual already censured by the emperor, who would ever grant him an official post. Moreover, the news of his impotence spread far and wide, becoming a laughingstock throughout the capital. He could not hold his head high anywhere he went, drowning his sorrows in drink day after day. Wen Fei, deemed unfaithful, was seized by her furious maternal family. They drowned her in a pig cage. Even in death, she remained reviled as a slut and poisonous woman. Her son with Lin Jiaxian, Lin Zhaoxian, was branded a bastard. Unable to study under masters or attend school, he followed his father's path into cockfighting and dog racing, eventually becoming a street thug. The Marquis fell into ruin. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The Lin family was shunned as a plague. Expelled from the Lin clan, father and son soon fell into destitution. One bitter winter night, drunk and freezing, Lin Jiaxian and Lin Zhaoxian froze to death on the street. Hongling was beaten to death outright. Hongling's brother and mother were banished by me. The court physician was flogged and then imprisoned. Everyone received their just deserts. I returned to my maternal home with a cartload of gold, silver, and jewels. Mother embraced me, weeping bitterly, "My daughter, fear not. I will care for you for the rest of your life." A divorced daughter returning home invites public scorn. Fortunately, my scandal was sufficiently grand and sanctioned by the emperor, so the facade remained largely intact. Yet, no one dared marry me again. After 2 lifetimes, I had no desire to remarry either. Becoming a mistress of the house may seem glamorous, but it's exhausting and difficult. Better to live a quiet life on my own. I never adopted another child. Being raised by an ungrateful wretch had taught me my lesson. I lived with Aunt Wu and Jinju, treating them as sisters and honoring them with respect. Both had proven themselves through trials in their past lives. Their sincerity and integrity were beyond doubt. With the help of the doctors at Huichun Hall, the poison within me slowly faded. I studied medicine under the doctor, who, moved by my hardships, imparted his knowledge without reservation. Perhaps free from the burdens of marriage, childbirth, household chores, and social obligations, I could focus entirely on mastering the art of healing. Later, I became a renowned female physician, compiling and publishing a treatise on poisons that would be celebrated for centuries. The end.